All right, we are live.
Yay!
All right, this is exciting. This is exciting. Welcome to Crossing the Streams, episode 50.
50!
It's the golden episode.
We we have been here every week except for I think the insurgents and the insurrection on the Capitol, and then I think we took one other week off. But other than that, we've been here. We're back week after week after week, serving up the best TV, movie, binge watching suggestions in, dare I say, the universe.
You can say it.
And
you're right.
And the metaverse.
Oh yeah.
and the multiverse.
And the multiverse.
And all the verses. Speaking of which, did you guys see today's episode is going to be a special episode. I'm going to turn the MC over to Howard, my friend Howard, and he's going to run it. It's going to sort of be comfort shows in the sense that we're getting ready for Thanksgiving. So these are kind of the shows that it's our go-to when we need just to feel good and chill on the couch and watch something.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, this is, it's a Saturday morning and you don't feel like waking up and you don't want to watch anything new or start anything new, and it's rainy or snowy outside and you don't feel great and you're like, I need a laugh or I need some excitement. These are those shows that you watch over and over and over again because they always do it for you. And that's what we want to talk about. Live from where? Yes.
Right. This is when I hate everybody and I just don't want to talk to anybody. What's the show I'm going to watch when I go to my cave in my basement to watch television? You're going to answer that today.
Ron is coming to us from his laundry room. If you're watching live on YouTube and have full video, he's a gorgeous front loader.
It is. It really is.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
I think I have the same one.
Really?
So before we get into the comfort things, just to kind of knock off, they just released a new commercial for Spider-Man Into the Multiverse. And what's super cool about it is it's Doc Ock, and Doctor Strange says to him, I'm paraphrasing a bit, is Peter Parker Spider-Man in your universe? And he says, yes. And then Doctor Strange points to Tom Holland and says, is this him? And he goes, no. But that was super cool because that meant that was basically teeing up Tobey Maguire.
And Andrew Garfield,
right there. So it was like they can't be teasing it any more than they have. But
do you think they'll have to de-age Tobey Maguire?
No. The whole point I think is that they'll be of the age.
Will be okay.
Yeah.
So he'll be 42, Spider-Man.
Well, it's like if you watch Spider-Man into the multiverse, like one of the Peter Parkers is like he's got a tummy, he's older, he's like practically getting up, and one there's a Spider Pig, and there's a kind of a Art Deco-ish type, film noir type Spider-Man. So there's all these different. One of them was a girl, So there's tons of different stuff that
I would just have to stop watching Girl Spider-Man. I'm sorry. Everything else I'm down for. Realistic.
There was a Spider-Woman character.
Do you know why there's all the Spider-Womans or all those versions? It's only to protect the IP. They like Spider-Man, and then they Stan Lee and then made Spider-Woman only because to stop DC from doing it, because that wouldn't have been protected. So they create She-Hulk, and they created the female versions just to protect the IP, so that a different competitor couldn't come up with the female version. But I'm going to turn it over to Howard. I'm going to let Howard.
Pilot us, Howard.
Are we not for the 50th doing our theme song?
Oh,
yeah, that's right.
I got right into it. Oh yeah, well we got to do it. This is our 50th theme song. Bob, I'm going to let you do the first verse.
Okay. Here's the story of some lonely fellows who spend way too much time watching the TV. All of them have jobs and friends. Well, not really. Just between you and me.
Rosner.
They made a live show out of their hobby. Every TV watcher's TV watching dream. Jeff, Ron, Sal, and Bob, and there's Howard. They call it Crossing Streams.
And then one day they went live on all the platforms. You could hear the people laugh and shout and scream. Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform. But man, we crossed the streams. Everyone, we crossed the streams.
We crossed the streams.
We
crossed the streams.
That's the way we do it here. We cross the streams. Da, 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 da.
All right.
Right.
I
So
didn't
if
hear
you're,
music at home.
if you're
I
just
heard some
joining us
people
real
at home.
quick on Fireside, or you're on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, but specifically on Fireside, if you raise your hand, we're talking about shows that we love to watch. This is the comfort episode and our Thanksgiving episode and 50th. And my man Rosner is going to take over.
Yeah. So again, we had some folks just join on Fireside. This being our 50th episode, we're not breaking ground here on shows that you've probably never seen before. We're talking about the ones that we go to repeatedly whenever we need a pick-me-up because they're our favorites. So we'll start with Mr. Viren von Lippypants. Ron, one of my go-tos, The Big Short.
Yes. Well, so look, before COVID, I was on airplanes every week, right? And my menu of choices of any movie or show or, one-offs was always what was Delta showing that day. But the one constant over the course of 2018, 2017, 2000.
Yeah, like 2000. I was the same thing. I flew 75,000 miles a year
no
too.
matter where you went on Delta, sitting right there, usually on the main screen, was The Big Short. And I just happen to think The Big Short is one of the best, most peculiar, well-made films out there. I love the theme, and we've talked about this before on Crossing the Streams. The idea of characters who you wouldn't think could overcome the system being smart enough to figure out something to actually outsmart the man, so to speak. And that's entirely the story of The Big Short, on top of the greed and corruption and all the underpinnings of the 2008 market crash and all the things that led up to it. It really is two stories, right? It's the greed and corruption and the ability of common people like you and me to be able to profit from that just by being smart and just by recognizing an opportunity. And to me, it's a simple chemistry, and it works, and the acting is terrific. Steve Carell, I'll just say, he's such a versatile actor. I only think of him as the funniest person in Hollywood, but the truth is he's done some really versatile stuff. And The Big Short, he does an incredible job in this movie. But the cast of characters in Big Short, every time you watch this thing, and I've watched this thing probably 30 times, and I'm not exaggerating on that. Every time you watch this, you see something that you didn't recognize before, or something is making sense. So yeah, Jerry, I'm getting lost.
Yeah, I mean, Daddy Gosling obviously is fantastic in it. I'm the same way as you, Ron. I watched it on flights all the time and own it on my Apple TV, and I've watched it probably 3 times in the past 6 months on the Apple TV. I love it because it's a riveting story, but it's also hysterical, and it's one of those, just like any good go-to comfort movie, you know how it ends.
Yep.
You know what's about to happen when they're like, why are rates going down? I don't understand. Why is this crash not happening? And you're like, ooh, why is the crash not happening? Like, I've seen it 8 times. I know why the crash isn't happening, but it sucks you in because the acting and writing is
the acting is excellent. And and I know we got to move on because we got a lot of things to cover, but I'll just say one last thing. They casted this movie just, even with the side actors, folks that just had even one scene roles. And I'm not talking about just the superstars who played cameos in this. There's a character who worked for Fannie Mae, or was it Freddie Mac? I can't remember. One of the ratings agencies. I can't remember which one it was. She was perfectly cast, and she became a very memorable role in her 5 minutes in the movie. So just like that, it's why it's such a good movie.
I have
I haven't seen
Yeah,
it.
there's so many good people in it. I know the guy that played Steve Carell's right hand man is one of the big guys from. I always forget his name, but he's from Succession. He's one of the sons on Succession. The one of the mortgage brokers, the really blonde haired guy, is the guy that's that's been in a bunch of shows lately as well. He's in the show that I did, Made for Love.
And they take chances. That they break the fourth wall. They stop the movie to tell you things. It's an easy movie to watch. You have to watch it a few times to truly understand everything that happens.
Yeah.
But they help you along, and that makes the movie great. So
yeah, absolutely. The cut scenes to get like Margot Robbie in a bathtub explaining, or Anthony Bourdain, his description of making a seafood stew.
Right. Stop right there. Margot Robbie in a bathtub. Whatever.
Yeah.
That's it. It's all you need to say.
It's good. So, all right. Well, thank you, Ron. One of my comfort classics as well. Hope everybody out there looks for that one as a comfort classic. Bob, one of your comfort classics, Willy Wonka.
Oh, come on.
Willy Wonka. I mean,
Which version? Which version
are we talking about?
The only version, the Gene Wilder version, the Johnny Depp version. I mean, it was such a disaster. It ruined the whole story. I mean, I don't know. I think it made like $200 million, which is just what boggles my mind. There's nothing memorable about that. I think that's like 15 years old. Nobody talks about it. Nobody thinks about it. But people are still talking about the 1971 Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It is it's one of those go-to movies for me because it's one of the rare movies that when I watch it, it takes me back exactly where I was when I watched it the first time. I'm sitting in the Livonia Mall cinemas, having paid 75 cents to see this, with a bag of popcorn and a Coke or whatever it was, and some Raisinets. And no matter how many times I've seen it, no matter how many times I've seen just like the last 10 minutes or the first 20 minutes or the whole thing, I have the same feelings about it. There's always something new that you didn't see. It's always there. I mean, it's always on the screen. It's about you changing and seeing things in a different way. And I mean, Gene Wilder inhabited the Willy Wonka character, like, in my view, like no other actor had ever done. He's the perfect blend of menace and merriment. He is just, you can't trust the guy. You can't look away from him. Right up to the very end, where he is screaming at Grandpa Joe, and then turns on a dime and says, "Sorry, I had to do that." You're never comfortable in that movie. It's almost like life. You ride that roller coaster, and if you're at my house, you see Willy Wonka memorabilia around. I have it just because people have given it to me over the years. I don't think I've bought much, but one of my prized possessions. In fact, this is the thing I love most. It was a gift given to me by my friend Jenny Treese, who was a very talented graphic artist. She chalk drew Willy Wonka, the Gene Wilder Willy Wonka, on her sidewalk in front of her house, about 2.5 feet high, maybe 1.5 feet wide. And for the buttons and the brocade and all the stuff in his vest, she put Smarties and different candies and this is such a beautiful drawing. And she took a picture of it and then she washed it off her sidewalk. And she had that picture blown up and framed and gave it to me. I have the only one, and I love it more than anything because when I see it, I'm 10 years old again, man.
That's awesome.
That's like an NFT.
Yeah,
it is like an NFT.
Exactly.
It's like
one of the hallmarks, I'll say, of a comfort classic, a go-to comfort classic, to me, is lines that you use constantly. 10 times a week as part of your regular vocabulary. And there's got to be 8-10 from that movie that I use all the time. And not like, look, everybody uses the "you get nothing, good day, sir." Like, that's a classic. But Strike that, reverse it.
Beautiful.
All the time.
I do it all the time.
One of the funniest moments, Ron and I were together. We were at the NASCAR race at Michigan, and we were about to get on my golf cart, and our friend Brian looked at us and without batting an eye went, "She's Trey Jolie, Wonka, but is she seaworthy?" And it was just out of nowhere. It was so funny. Lines like that. They're say it a little louder. I'm a trifle deaf in this here. I mean, that's
Howard, we got someone on Fireside.
The suspense is killing me. I hope it lasts.
Wait, let's
somebody on Fireside.
I think. Let's see. I think. Can I unmute, or Stephanie? Can you unmute, or how does that work? Oh, hello, Stephanie. Can't hear Stephanie. Wish I could.
Tune in, Stephanie.
Let's see.
Hello, Stephanie.
I see her there, but I don't hear her.
I don't hear her though.
Is it because your volume's down?
No, it should be coming in.
Oh, there's Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie.
I hear something.
I don't know. Stephanie I don't know what's going on.
Bob, I saw an interview not long before Gene Wilder's death, actually, where he was talking about the boat ride. And that there was, in the production of Willy Wonka, a lot of concern and disagreement about the boat ride scene.
Yeah.
And that Gene Wilder absolutely insisted on it. That it was his input, his creativity that held firm to the whole boat ride, scary part of the movie. And
he wanted to keep the menace.
That's right.
I heard a great story too. Just after he died, that he wanted that. It's not the opening scene, but where you first see Willy, he comes out of the factory and he's walking, and he's got that cane. And he's clicking along, and you don't expect to see a guy with a cane. And he's got a very stern look on his face. Well, he stops. The cane gets stuck in the crack of the sidewalk. He pitches forward and rolls and jumps up, And that was his idea. It wasn't in the script. He said he wanted to do that so that people couldn't trust him from the get.
Yeah.
You couldn't quite trust him. I love that.
It worked. I never trusted him.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry,
good one, Bob.
That's a great one, Bob.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Dwoskin, a show that I'm not familiar with. Friends? Is it called Friends? Friends?
I think it's Friends, right?
I thought we agreed not to talk about that.
I think Friends is a show that ran from 1994 to 2004.
Yeah, we don't.
It's on HBO Max now, and it is the show that my wife and I go to sleep to every night. Now, when I say my wife and I, it's my wife's choice. I just choose to also stay in the room because I don't want to leave. And so I have now watched the series of Friends so many times. When I had joined Friends groups on Facebook a long time ago because I had Larry Hankin on my show, who was Mr. Heckles from the early seasons. So to share, I would go on. So I'm still in some of those groups. So posts will show up occasionally, and they'll be like, "Oh, what do you think about Joey? He would never have done that." And I'll just all of a sudden be on Facebook going, "Actually, he would. If you remember, he used to do this, and then he did that, and then he would." And my wife gets mad because when you watch a show like this that wasn't originally probably understanding that it would be able to be watched and watched and watched and watched, there's a lot of inconsistencies and things that contradict themselves and stuff like that, like from seasons past that, like, oh, wait a minute, what do you mean she didn't recognize him? They did that in that flashback or whatever, silly stuff like that. But I will say, hands down, Jennifer Aniston and Courtney Cox are amazing comedic actresses. They really are.
Yes, I will go with you on that.
If you watch the show just from that perspective of how the two of them play those characters, it's amazing. It is literally amazing. And Joey, I think of the guys, is my favorite. And I think he's really my favorite character of the whole show. And I think he holds up the most. Chandler can be annoying, and wow, Ross is just annoying and just gets worse and worse and worse. I remember watching Friends originally and like being in love with the first season or two, and then stopping. I didn't watch, I don't think, like the middle seasons, and then it got better towards the end, and I think I picked it back up, and then when streaming came out, I caught it back again. But it's just funny. It's the interesting thing about Friends is it's hard to explain to the woke generation, who, when you watch Friends now, there's definitely issues with it, but it's hard to explain that at the time it was woke, right? To have like
good point,
a lesbian ex-wife, and to deal with all that they dealt with and all those things, those weren't talked about. Those weren't part of the conversation. They brought a lot of things into they seem a little cringy now when you watch, but back then it was, I don't want to dare say cutting edge, but it was pushing the envelope a bit in terms of bringing that to the forefront of entertainment. You didn't have that many gay characters and stuff like that. But,
the amount of the cameos by big time, people. When you look back, you're like, God, I knew there were big time people, but yeah, I mean, my wife is a Friends savant, and so it's not a go-to for us on streaming. It's a go-to if we happen to be flipping through the channels and there's nothing on. She'll just leave it sitting there for a couple of hours. So
there's some classically great episodes, I think, that almost compete at Seinfeld level of historic almost. But Jeff, I have a trivia question for you, because I also have watched the production and making of Friends a couple times, and here's my quick trivia question. Of the 6 main characters, only one of them was pre-cast before the show was ever produced. Like that they knew that character, that actor was going to be that character, and didn't have to go through any auditions. And there was only one of them. Do you know which one it was?
If I were to guess, I would guess Courtney Cox.
That would be incorrect.
I think it was Jennifer Aniston.
It was not Jennifer Aniston.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think
it was Ross. It was Ross. It was David Schwimmer.
Oh, it was David
Schwimmer. David Schwimmer had the part of Ross before the show was even began production and casting.
My wife's the one that she'll go to like Friends trivia challenges and stuff like that. My only claim to fame with Friends trivia is I turned to my wife and I said, you got to know the character Gunther played on Friends and the soap opera he was on. And sure enough, that actually ended up being the final question.
I think when I was with you guys, we called my wife and asked her, and she knew the answer.
Yeah.
Well, good one, Jeff. That was that's obvious. I remember watching the final episode at your house. As a matter of fact, it's a big group of people.
That was fun.
I never watched a single episode, and I'm not saying that as some kind. I was raising kids during that time. Right? It was on at a time where I was putting them to bed. I don't know what it was, but I think it was, and I was a little older. I was, I was already in my 30s, so it didn't hit me. What it did, and I know they all sort of hooked up with each other, like ABBA here and there. But did Lisa Kudrow ever hook up with any? Was she part of that mix?
She kissed Joey occasionally, but it was just like a kiss. And I think there was an episode where she kissed Ross. I don't think she ever kissed Matthew Perry's character.
Okay. I often wonder how she must have felt, because everybody else is like having a swing in time.
I'm just going to say this, that, when the Friends reunion came out just a couple months ago, no one looks happier than Matt LeBlanc. I don't think he's doing anything. I think he's just sitting there.
He had episodes, and then
episodes was a great show.
He's got Man with a Plan.
He looks like he's the happiest person in the world.
Work.
He's just all smiles.
Lisa Kudrow did The Comeback, which was a great series as well.
She's very, very funny.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. I'll do one of mine now. Best in Show is an absolute go-to movie. If it's on and I, like on cable or something, it's anywhere I stop. So for those that don't know, Best in Show was the second of Chris Guest's mockumentary movies. It was written by Chris Guest and Eugene Levy. And it is just from beginning to end so absolutely hysterical. And the fact that it's a mockumentary and it's not made to be, it's not supposed to be overwhelmingly funny. It grabs me every time. Again, for those that don't know, it's a mockumentary following basically what's supposed to be, a cross of the Westminster, or what's on tomorrow, as it is every Thanksgiving, the National Dog Show, and the competitors in that movie. And it is the Spinal Tap of dog shows. And not surprisingly, it's the same people that, Chris Guest involved, obviously, with Spinal Tap, with Rob Reiner. When you watch back, this is an old-timey saying, but if you watch the old DVD of Best in Show and the extras, there were a couple hours of just improv. Basically, they gave script summaries and they would let these people riff and improv, and a significant portion of it is improv, which is even more amazing, just the level of talent of a lot of the people in this show. And it's just hysterical. There's, again, so many lines that we use on a daily basis. I mean, my wife and I will wander around the house singing "God Loves a Terrier." It's just so funny. Like, my wife is as good with movie lines as I am, and I was talking to somebody on the phone. We were talking about good things to snack on this. For a diet that somebody was doing. I'm like, you can have cashews or peanuts. And my wife from the other room goes, "Harlan Pepper, you stop naming nuts." And it was
stop naming nuts
in the movie, and just stop naming nuts, or it's just so. Pond Nut, that's a name of a town too. It is such a funny movie from beginning to end. It always brings a smile to my face, no matter where I'm at mentally. It just is such a go-to, and makes me happy that it exists. The other two, his two after that, A Mighty Wind, which was about folk music, which is also a great movie, and then the final one, For Your Consideration. Those have been on cable a bunch lately, and they're also great. But Best in Show is just incredible.
I think like Spinal Tap, while the first, I don't think it's considered part of that.
It's
run.
It's not because it was Rob Reiner,
right? But the Waiting for Guffman, which was the first of this series, I think was good. But I think Best in Show was the best, where it was the funniest kind of parody of what it was doing and movie. Mighty Wind, I think was. This is a funny thing to say. I think was actually too good. Like it was. It wasn't like it wasn't.
The dramatic scenes were actually dramatic.
Actually, a really It didn't balance that right. It was a good movie, which isn't a bad thing. It's a weird thing to say, like as a negative. It was too good, but I loved all those. For your consideration is not as great because I think some of the characters, because they all swap places and stuff like that. I don't think where it fell is good in that one. There's other ones too. There was a TV series, and then there was one about mascots that went right to Netflix.
Yeah. Well, so Howard, I think it does the same thing that other shows do that we truly love, which is there's just moments in the show that just become part of who you are as a person. For me, it's Stephen Miller's whole thing about the suicide. Being the negotiator. Excuse me, Larry Miller, rather, being the negotiator for. And here's a little tip of the trade: they all jump.
They all jump.
They all jump. Little
whirly gigs down.
Right. And Parker Posey with the busy bee screaming at the guy in the store.
Yeah.
I mean, it's.
She's great.
There's some of these moments in Best in Show just live on, and sometimes like it's so funny and so well done that like I'll be sitting like in public settings and just think of it and start like I'll have to control my laughter just like alone without even having to see it.
I can't hear anybody like Ron and I both being soccer fans, European soccer fans, I can't hear anybody from the Norway World Cup competitive team because I just go from Norland. Just the lines from the movie, Alan Ladd at Easter Island, or I just want to hold the membrane. Just it's such a good movie. I
can't go to a dog park or be around more than one dog without saying, and to think that in some countries these dogs are eaten. You know what I mean?
Fred, and that's the guy who steals the movie, even though everybody's
Fred
Willard
he's
fantastic,
full laconic and deadpan. He's just he was the best.
His delivery and the poor guy, the British guy that had to play off of him is just. Let me ask you.
Yeah,
how much do you think I could bench? Right up over my.
That's what I'm saying. Like that whole the where the actors fell in that movie, I think was all perfect.
Yeah, it was. And Jeff, to that point, I love in that movie, no one tried to overdo each other. Like, what I'm saying? Like everyone had their unique role, and the way it was all kind of cobbled together is all these separate stories that they came together. You never felt like one character or actor was trying to, be the guy for the whole movie.
Well, and they do
an improv kind of.
It is. And, I just read an article yesterday talking about especially this season, but the last couple of seasons, all the big time A-list actors and actresses that are doing cameos on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And talking about how they do it, they do not give them, before their audition or before they film, they do not get any of the plot line, because they specifically said they don't want them laying in bed in their hotel room the night before writing sitcom-esque comedy lines. They want them coming in and they say, don't try and play it funny. Just play it, because if you play it, you're playing off of Larry, who's going to be funny. So you play it and it's going to be great. So, yeah. All right. Well, good one for me. And Ron, back to you with Narcos.
Yes. So anyone else a big Narcos fan? So the first season of Narcos, I happen to think is just cinematic genius. First off, the casting is fantastic. Right from Pablo Escobar straight down to all the side actors. They're all not all, but most are of foreign, right? And the fact that Netflix was able to produce and build this show, finding talent from all over Latin America to fill this out. The gentleman who plays Pablo Escobar isn't even Colombian. In fact, how about this, you guys? And I'm blanking on his name. I apologize. Should have been more prepared. He didn't even speak Spanish. How about that? He's Brazilian. He spoke Portuguese. He had to learn the Spanish for the show, which is crazy as Pablo Escobar, because he's so convincing as Pablo Escobar. Someone Google his name, because I can't do it with my with the way my setup is here. But
you might start the rinse cycle.
I might start the rinse cycle. So, look, Narcos, because it's a Netflix show and because it's TV.
Yeah, he's the Mandalorian.
What's his name?
Oh, sorry, wrong guy. Pablo Escobar is Wagner.
Yes, Wagner. Yeah, that's right.
But the Mandalorian's in this.
So, the thing about, because it's a Netflix show, Netflix can take liberties, right? It's an extremely violent show. Tons of blood, gore, nudity, a lot of very upsetting things in this show. And the fact
Sounds
that Netflix...
like Thanksgiving at my house. Sorry.
Right, without the uncles. But my point is that it's a good character study through the midst of all this thing, and they do a great job of talking about the story of Pablo Escobar, which is a fascinating story. The guy came from nothing. He was a low level cigarette and alcohol smuggler that found his opportunity and obviously built this giant global empire. And in his height, he was making more money than General Motors was, right? So it's an amazing story. His downfall, I think, is super interesting. But the reason I keep going back to this movie, to this series, and it's 8 or 10 episodes, I think, the first season, and then seasons 2, 3, and now 4 continue on talking about the Cali cartel and beyond. But the reason I keep going back to this is because of the acting and because of the rise and fall story, which has been a theme for me as we go through Crossing the Streams. I love stories of people who come from nothing, and that the story talks in specifics about how people become something they never thought they could be or never really should have been. And then in Narcos' case, getting to the top of the mountain and then the downfall, which ends his life and moves Colombia into a brand new terrible situation of drug and crime and murder, right? So, and that's what the rest of Narcos is about. So, any of the episodes of season 1 to me are, if I just happen upon them on Netflix, I dive in whatever episode is, because every single one of the episodes tell a great specific story that I think is super compelling. And I enjoy it. I'll just say one last thing, because we've talked about this in the past. This is another movie that's subtitled, right? You're not gonna see this dubbed. And for me, just speaking for myself, you lose you don't even remember that you're reading subtitles after the first episode of this show. Like, it's so well done, and the subtitles are so easy to read while watching this show that, for me anyway, it feels completely seamless as they tell this story. So Narcos season 1, get at it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great review. It's a sort of a side story here. Have you ever heard about the Escobar's hippos?
Yes.
There's something like 80 of them now. They're marauding around Colombia.
Yeah.
And
they're being charged as criminals.
Yeah. And I mean, they're putting farmers out of their fields because, these are dangerous animals. Hippos are not to be trifled with. I just think it's hysterical that he had like 4 of them. It was like when Michael Jackson had the llamas or whatever, Pablo Escobar bugs out and these hippos procreate and they're just all over now. It's hilarious.
I think that's the plot of the new Jurassic Park movie. But hippos actually are the most dangerous animals in the world.
They are. They kill more people in Africa than any other animal. I had one little side thing, Howard, though.
Not true. Most dangerous land animal, the mosquito, is the most dangerous animal.
How about that? Good point. A couple months ago on Crossing the Streams, I talked about the Fire Festival and the epic failure of the Fire Festival. Well, the Fire Festival was held on Pablo Escobar's island in the Bahamas.
They weren't allowed to say it, and then they still did.
All right, good one, Ron. Let's move on to another comfort classic from Mr. Bob, the all-time classic Stallone vehicle,
of course.
Rocky. What can you possibly say about Rocky nearly 50 years after it was made, other than it's probably my it alternates between Willy and Rocky. What's my number one comfort movie? I love boxing, as you all know, so I'm not going to get off on that. I will say that the movie is perfect. It is a perfect movie. It won Best Picture, I think, in 1976 or 77. Yep. 76. Because it did not devolve into schmaltz. It did not devolve into unreality. Rocky doesn't win. He loses the fight, but wins everything else. The girl, his self-respect, popularity, the love of the country, everything, right? So it's such a joy to go on that journey with him whenever I turn that movie on, because there's so many great set pieces. There's so many great moments that sort of bring you back, and it's still fresh looking, which is really weird to say after almost, what is it, 44 years? I don't know, 44 years, something like that, 45.
Yeah.
So that's crazy that that there aren't many movies that you could do that with. But one of the things I love about it is that Rocky has no backstory. He just appears as a 30-year-old fighter, and you have no idea what his family was. You have no idea where he really came from. You knew he was in that neighborhood in Philadelphia. He was part of that. He grew up there. But did you have any brothers and sisters? You don't know. What about his parents? He never spoke of it. Stallone didn't write a word about any of that. And that's one of the reasons why I love these two movies, Rocky and Willy, is because they just appear and they are fully formed, and you don't need to know why they do what they do. They just do it. And what I love, the comfort aspect of it is that, like I said at the beginning, he doesn't win the fight, but literally everything else. And in fact, if you look back on that, I don't think there is a Rocky 2. There's no Rocky franchise if he wins that first fight, because it's all done. Yeah. It's all done. It's all neatly tied up in a bow. Boom. It's a great movie, but it's done. Rocky 2 comes out. It's the same movie. I mean, it's so funny to me. You watch them back to back. They're the same movie, but Rocky wins the second one. And that sets up all the other challenges. But if he had won, it ruins the whole deal.
And then in 3, they decide to combine the two, and then he loses, and then he wins.
And then wins, right?
Yeah.
Bob, can I ask you a question that requires an honest answer from you?
Yeah.
What is your opinion of Talia Shire?
I am forever in love with Talia Shire. Talia Shire. In fact, I just watched The Godfather Part 2 the other day, and I was just looking at her going, my God, that woman was heaven sent. Not the greatest actress in the world, let's say that. But as Adrian, when she took off her glasses and the hat and let her hair fall, it was like, 15-year-old me was out of his mind. That's what I think. What do you think?
Well, I think I speak for Ron and Howard, and 1-year-old us was.
You're unimpressed. Thank you, and that's your reminder that Bob is older than everyone here.
Listen. I agree with everything you've said. Rocky is unmitigated success, incredible movie. There's nothing you could say negative about Rocky. I am not a Talia Shire fan. I find every scene with Talia Shire, like I want to get past the Talia Shire scenes to get into the rest of the movie. But that's just me. Listen, I respect it. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would rather, I want to watch the fight. I want to watch Rocky, but she was a diversion. I thought she was gorgeous in her own way, and I still do. So
I think I liked Talia. I thought she was good for that role. Carl Weathers was amazing. Obviously, Burgess Meredith, Burt Young, all great. It's interesting.
Okay.
Oh no, I was going to say I watched King Richard recently. That's the new movie about Venus and Serena Williams, and then the 100% dedicated Oscar performance of Will Smith. Like when you're watching a movie and it's just like I'm going for the Oscar. But it's interesting because the movie ends with Venus losing the huge match. You guys would probably know the name of the person she was playing. She was up like 6. She only had to, I think, win one more game, and then the other person iced her, and then she got her cold and came back and beat her. And so she loses, and then when she walks out, she realizes, oh, she really won, because the fact that she did what she did was more impressive than. Well, I'm sure it wouldn't have been more impressive than if she had won, but it was equally as impressive. Same idea. I bet they're like, we can't end on a lose. And like, Rocky did. And like, you're right. and that one had 50 sequels. So, anyway.
All right.
Trope.
Moving on. Jeff, Arrested Development.
Okay. Arrested Development. So this is Arrested Development. Now, I don't want to upset anyone listening who's a big fan. So Arrested Development, if you flash forward the 10 years or so after season 3, and all anybody ever wanted was a season 4. And then eventually we got a season 4. And then
it's terrible.
And we got a season 5. So it's a be careful what you wish for thing. But let me go back a second. Now, when I say I love Arrested Development and I can just sit there and watch season 1 of Arrested Development over and over again. If you want to watch a masterclass of writing and comedic acting, season 1 of Arrested Development is the greatest thing on earth. The combination of Jason Bateman, Will Arnett, Tony Hale, Jeffrey Tambor, Jessica Walter, David Cross, Michael Cera, Portia de Rossi, Alia Shawkat, and then you sprinkle in Henry Winkler and Liza Minnelli and Ed Begley Jr. And it's so amazingly funny, that show. And then Ron Howard is the narrator. It's just there's like little jokes that will happen in one episode and pay off 4 episodes later. Like they'll have running jokes that kind of just go through and things that happen, and it's just fascinating. But the reality of Arrested Development is, if you watch the first 3 original seasons, season 1 is gold standard of comedies. Like it's almost too smart. They always say that, like, if you have to actually pay attention to a show, it will never succeed. And that sounds horrible. Everyone's like, I'm too smart for that. But the reality of it is, shows like The Naked Gun and stuff like that is really smart comedy that you have to watch and pay attention to, don't do well, because most people, especially now with their phones and the distractions, will miss something, right? But that's why if most dramas that you watch that are, say, 45, 60 minutes, you could literally come in and 45 minutes to go and feel like you actually watched the whole thing and didn't really miss much. But not this show. This show is you have to sit down, you have to watch it. The interaction with these characters, they're mostly all together in almost all the scenes. It's just magic. It's literally magic. Season 2, if season 1's a 10 out of 10, season 2 hovers around a 7 to an 8. But season 3 is closer to a 6.5. Season 3 had worn itself out. The show had worn itself out. And that's not to say anything. I think it's an American thing to burn the hell out of a show idea versus just do what you should do and then walk away. So here we are about 10 years. Now, the beauty of Arrested Development, season 1, 2, and 3, it was, the 30-minute sitcom. So it was, let's say, 24 minutes total running time. And it had certain beats. It would cut away at certain times every time. And that's what it was. And you knew that the plots were going to pivot and certain things were going to happen at certain times. So flash forward, Netflix, the reinvention of TV shows and et cetera, and they get all these guys back together. I know we're just supposed to talk about the comfort, but season 4 and 5 don't work. Season 4, they got the cast together, but never at the same time. So they had to film it and work it around who they had, when they had it. And they took it from a 25-minute episode, and they're like, oh, we have more time now. And they made 45-minute episodes. No cadence there. It was just horrible. Season 5, I think I've completely blocked my memory. I don't even remember laughing one time in season 5. But if you ever want to just laugh and have a good time, just cycle on season 1. It's literally
season 1 is the comfort.
Yeah. And I love, there's some episodes in 2 that I loved as well, but yeah, it's a go-to for us as well. And again, the hallmark, lines and moments that stick with you. Tony Hale, I loved in that show as Buster, and then him going on to Veep, and he is one of the most talented comedic actors of my lifetime, no question. He's so brilliant on that show, just hey brother, and just the way he put Lucille's a classic. There's one, no touching is another great line. We've bumped up against our appliances in the kitchen many times, like the cornballer in that show. So yeah, another great one. Look at all our
Marie's back.
So,
Tina's back and
good
she's
one.
pissed.
So I'm gonna hit one of mine real quick. It's not a funny show, which you think for comfort, but like Ron with Narcos, the miniseries Band of Brothers on HBO, now HBO Max for me, is one that I watch 4 or 5 times a year. For those that don't know, it's a miniseries focused on the 101st Airborne in World War II, based on a book by a writer named Stephen Ambrose, who came out of that book, and features the the main two characters, Damian Lewis, Ron Livingston, who are superb. Damian Lewis, especially in the shows, Colonel Dick Winters. All the characters were based on real people, and it's just so good. So it takes them from paratrooper training in the United States into the war, and then till the end of the war. And the episodes are riveting. The acting's great. The characters are so good for a miniseries that even the bit characters, you just know them so well. Produced by Tom Hanks and his Playtone company, and it's just so good. The 2 episodes surrounding Bastogne, the Battle of the Bulge, are amazing. They are 2 of the best episodes of television, period, I've ever seen. I can watch those episodes over and over and over again. It is a great miniseries. I watch it. It's on. They play it every year on Veterans Day and Memorial Day, so you can always find it on regular TV, but that's not the same. You got to watch it on HBO or streaming. It is excellent.
I agree, and they tried to recreate that magic unsuccessfully with the Pacific.
It wasn't as good. The characters weren't as well formed. They're
very good, but it just couldn't get there. It couldn't get to the heights that Band of Brothers did.
I agree. They just began filming a third one that I believe is called Masters of the Air. It's about bomber crews that bombed Germany. But it's not going to be. HBO didn't want to foot the bill for it. So Apple TV is carrying the load. So
Howard,
TV is doing all the Tom Hanks movies lately.
Yeah.
Band of Brothers is hands down one of the best limited series ever produced. I mean, people, even their competitors say that. And listen, for those of you who are just absolutely fanatical about that miniseries, and I am, I join you with celebrating that show. The Roger Bennett of Premier League Men in Blazers fame has produced the Band of Brothers podcast, which is because of the anniversary. I forget how many years. Is it 20 years? I think it's 20 years or 25 years. Since the series was produced. And, they were talking to the gentleman who plays Colonel Sink, and he actually was a captain.
He's in every military movie.
Well, they were talking about he wasn't hired to be an actor in the movie. He was there to do what he does professionally, which is to prepare movie sets to be realistic. To consult, to be realistic, for their time in the military. And he was so good at what he did that finally Tom Hanks and the producers we should just write you into the show. We should write you in as the colonel who. And it's a needed character, and he does a brilliant job in that movie. I think he's one of the great cast members of the show. So it's a really well show. I highly recommend the podcast if you're into the Band of Brothers miniseries.
I recommend the Sal and Bob podcast.
Hey,
let's hit a couple more of the other ones. We've actually filled our time pretty well, so let's just do some quick ones. Ron, your remaining one was Ozark. Yeah,
well, listen, I'm a Jason Bateman fan. No apologies. I love everything Jason
Bateman shows.
That's a good point. And
I'm a fan as well.
I listen, anything Jason Bateman does, whether it's comedy, whether it's drama, and that's the other thing. We talked about Steve Carell a little while ago, but Jason Bateman's in the same category of so much range. He's one of the funniest guys in Hollywood, and yet when you see Ozark, there's nothing funny about Ozark.
No.
You're in a panic attack every single episode with Ozark. It's exhausting, and Jason Bateman does a great job with that. That's why I love Ozark. It's such a departure, and I just love everything Jason Bateman does.
I still have to get into Ozark. I know it's amazing. It's amazing though how dramatic comedic people can be.
It's true.
So many.
Yeah. All right, another quick hitter as we round out our 50th. Jeff, one of your other comfort classics is Schitt's Creek.
Yes.
So it's interesting. Schitt's Creek is an interesting show, and you have to kind of say you have to get through season one, and you have to kind of season one of Schitt's Creek is so different than the other. How many seasons were there? 4 seasons, 5 seasons total, 6, whatever. Like, see, I say that though in hindsight, then you rewatch season one and you appreciate season one so much more because I've never watched a show that had such amazing character development. Like these characters really change and grow throughout. And to Dan Levy's credit, he ended the show at the right time. He chose to kind of end it and not go into like one of these Arrested Development tailspins like we talked about.
Lost.
This is a story of the Rose family. The Rose family, I think the parallel they draw is what if the Kardashians suddenly became poor? So it's that concept, except the Rose family is the Eugene Levy and Catherine O'Hara are the patriarch and matriarch, the mom and dad here, who are hands down two of the funniest people probably in the world. Eugene Levy was actually mentioned in Best in Show.
Best in Show.
All the way back to
Catherine O'Hara. And
Yep.
And the cast here is Dan Levy plays the son, who's also Eugene Levy's real son, their father and son in real life. And then Annie Murphy, who's the sister Alexis, who's absolutely unbelievable. And if you watch her and Kevin Can Fuck Himself, you realize how amazing an actress she actually is in that role. And then
a little bit Alexis.
Yeah. Emily Hampshire is Stevie. Sarah Levy plays, who is actually Dan's sister, plays Twyla, who owns the restaurant. Chris Elliott's my least favorite character, but it's because I don't love him as much. But even the supporting characters, John Hemphill, Karen Robinson, Jennifer Robertson, like everyone brings such an interesting thing to this town. The whole idea is that this very, very rich family loses everything. And as a joke, let's say 10 years prior, they had bought this this town called Schitt's Creek for the son, Eugene, as a joke. But it ends up, it's the only thing they have because it's so worthless. The bank doesn't even want it back. So they end up living in the motel there. And it is so funny. And it's just every season they kind of just grow. And I know it's just absolutely amazing. Wait, let's say I have someone on Fireside who wants to talk. That's Ashley on Fireside. Ashley, go ahead. Hopefully we can hear you.
So close.
Yeah, she's there and gone.
Can we hear you, Ashley?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
There we are.
Oh,
okay. Am I on video too, or just, I don't know,
just audio.
my phone?
Ashley loves Ted Lasso.
Yeah, let's talk about Ted Lasso. Maybe I missed it.
I mean, you're talking Ashley about literally the best show on television right now. And I think most of us agree.
So wholesome. Like there's an entire thing on Twitter with Med Lasso, because so many of us in medicine and in healthcare, I'm a nurse, saw so many parallels between TED and healthcare recently. As weird as that might sound, but it's a whole thing.
I'm gonna check that out. Jeff,
Howard, you're muted, by the way.
There we go. We've talked about Ted Lasso a lot. It is one of our favorite shows, no question. And we've done it a bunch on the episodes. We think it's that is the equivalent of a comfort show, and we only didn't do that because all of us would have been fighting to talk about that one. That's exactly what we tried to talk about in this episode. Shows that you go back to. I know Ron, myself, Jeff. I watched probably Ted Lasso season 1 4 or 5 times, all the way through before season 2 even came out, and then we would watch each episode. We couldn't wait for the episodes on Friday, the new episode of Ted Lasso. We'd watch it, then we'd have to get something to eat, and then come back and watch it again now that we'd seen it. It's a brilliant show, and that is exactly the type of show that we wanted to talk about today. Shows that you come back to when you need a pick-me-up, and especially during the pandemic. That's one of the reasons I think Ted Lasso was such a great show.
Well, and it brings up an interesting point, Howard, which is what percentage of comfort shows are 30-minute shows, 25-minute shows versus hour-long shows, right? I think I picked hour-long shows, but there's a point to be made that these shorter half-hour or 20-something minute shows are actually the better comfort show, like a Friends or whatever it might be. So
yeah, there's definitely something to be said. It's interesting. I think about the shows that we watched growing up that were our comfort shows, but that you had to tune in at a specific time to watch. And I'm talking about rerun comfort shows that you watched over and over. So the Brady Bunch,
Happy Days.
Gilligan's Island, Happy Days. And I wonder if it would have been different if you were able to stream them and binge entire seasons at a time. I wonder if they would have been that comforting, or was part of the comfort knowing that it was going to be on at a specific time.
Ashley's talking about Ted Lasso. Is that your comfort show, Ashley?
I would say yes, but I also tried to say that back in the day, back in my day, I don't know how old you fellows are, but
old.
It was watching Seinfeld. It came on at a set time. I had to make sure I stayed awake and watched it. But very good point. I don't know now if it was just comforting knowing it was coming on at 10:30 every night, or if it was comforting.
Sure.
If I would have binged it, if I would have felt the same way that I felt about Elaine and Jerry.
Yeah.
I have to say, Ashley, it's funny that you mentioned that about the Seinfeld. When living with Howard, when we lived together in college, I actually broke up with someone who called during Seinfeld. Because you just didn't do that. You knew you don't come on 9 p.m. on Thursdays. It's like, what kind of person is this, right?
And, funny story. Jeff once had a girl call, and she asked what he was doing and said, I'm making cookies. And then she later said, well, maybe I'll come over. And he hangs up the phone and goes, son of a bitch, now I got to go get stuff to make cookies. So he had to run out to the grocery store and get cookie dough. I'll never forget that moment.
I was crazy in college, Ashley.
I'm trying to watch Seinfeld. Please leave me alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No hugging, no learning.
That was appointment television. That was the way.
Yeah, it is different now. I was just earlier tonight, before the show, was watching the first 2 episodes of the new Hawkeye on Marvel, and was interrupted during those episodes 15, 16 times and never batted an eye, because it's all right. Pause. And it's an easier time now, but it's also a better time. Just to have every show ever made at your fingertips. Thanks for
appreciate you calling in, Ashley.
It's like the perfect evolution.
Sorry, didn't want to spend, but
okay. Ashley,
thanks, Ashley.
You're like our official first.
Yeah, nice job, Ashley.
Oh, so we're
you like that? Okay,
well, somebody did earlier, but I think I messed something up and the volume was down. But but welcome.
Thank you.
Come back. We're here every week.
So we have just one more that we wanted to talk about, which is one of my go-tos when I need a burst of energy, and I preface this by saying it's critically, dramatically, writing, dialogue, acting, one of the worst movies ever made. But it is such a guy movie, and it is the Jean-Claude Van Damme epic Bloodsport. It's it's a terrible movie. The acting is atrocious. Jean-Claude Van Damme, the great Donald Gibb, aka Ogre from Revenge of the Nerds movies. Forrest Whitaker, for some reason, in a totally non-essential role in the movie. It's a terrible movie. It is riveting anytime I turn it on. Just for what it is.
Hold on, Howard.
John-
I'm gonna go
yeah.
get some crackers to go with that cheese.
Oh, it is. It's
So bad.
ridiculously.
I know. I watched it.
I feel like
But
Howard,
it's great.
I feel like Howard just came up with the next theme for this show, which is to come up with the worst movie that for some reason we like.
That's a
Right?
good
Because
topic.
Bloodsport's
bunch
going to be
of
up there.
Oh yeah, it is. So for anybody that's never seen it, it is Jean-Claude Van Damme basically plays a full contact martial artist who goes to fight. It's kind of a Mortal Kombat thing, but without the futuristic. He goes to represent his sensei and fight in this every couple year full contact tournament in Hong Kong, maybe, or it's in Asia, obviously. But I think it's Hong Kong. But he goes there. He escapes, I think, from military or something, and goes to fight there. It's the fight scenes and this tournament that are great, and then just the lines that are so cheeseball that, like, I'll steal one of the other movies that would be for that potential theme show, which is the classic Elizabeth Berkeley Showgirls. Another example of a movie that's absolutely atrocious in every way, shape, or form, but is so memorable because it's so bad and the dialogue is so bad. You know, we talk about like all the movies we talked about that are comfort classics because they had great lines that we loved. A cult movie can also be memorable because it has lines that are so dumb and so poorly delivered that those also stick as memorable for the same reason. So, like, there's a guy who turns to Frank Dukes, Jean-Claude Van Damme's character, and puts his thumbs up in this horrible accent and goes, "Okay, USA!" And it's so bad, but it's so memorable. It's one of those movies that when it's on, it's not one that I would necessarily stream, but it's on cable all the time. And I'll watch it from wherever it is in the movie. My wife always leaves the room, but I love it.
That should be one of our future themes. Our favorite worst movie.
Yeah.
Like
Good
mine.
one.
I like that theme.
Grease too. Mine would be Grease too.
Oh, it's I just read an article, Jeff, that actually claims that Grease 2 is a better movie than the original Grease.
Oh, please.
It's not as bad as people remember if you watch them back to back.
Yeah.
But let's save that for another show.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys, for indulging me. I thought this would be a good theme for our 50th, and not just pure on reviews, but stuff that we go to whenever, not just to watch something new and review it. So,
really nice job, Oprah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, great job.
Good job, Howard.
Well, and thanks again. This is our 50th episode, so we're so excited. Everyone that comes back week after week, and also happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Stay safe. Eat lots of turkey. Ron,
please protect your giblets.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. See you next week, and just enjoy the holiday.
Bob, say goodnight.
Oh, good night, everybody. Come see me next week at Janetti's Hole in the Wall Theater in Little Northville, Michigan on Thursday, December 2nd.
Rosner, MC for the night. Great job, my friend.
Good night, everybody. Have a great Thanksgiving. Be safe.
Yes, and then everyone check me out on live.
Wubba, wubba.
Check out my podcast, Live from Detroit, The Jeff DeWaskin Show. I got Gopher from the Love Boat on this week. So much fun. All right, well, have a happy Thanksgiving. We're going to get back to our families. I'm going to turn off interview mode. Thanks to all you who joined us on Fireside. Thanks to Ashley. And Roz, you can turn off your thing too. And I'm going to say good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
I don't know why the background's not playing. Oh, and that has been another episode of Crossing the Streams. Join us every Wednesday, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Facebook and YouTube. Follow The Jeff DeWaskin Show on YouTube to be alerted every time we go live with your hosts, Jeff DeWaskin, Ron Lippett, Howard Rosner, Bob Phillips, Sal D'Amelio. We're all in the socials. Follow us. Listen to our podcast, live from Detroit, The Jeff DeWaskin Show, The Sal and Bob Show. Check them all out, and we'll see you next week and every week when we cross more streams right here. See you then.